Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Indian sessions. That is Indian Psychiatric Society South Zone and NIMHANS Digital Initiative for Academics and Nurturing Skills. Today, we have psychiatric care during pandemics, a panel discussion. We have with us four panelists amongst us. Dr. Pratima Murthy, who is Professor of Psychiatry and Head of the Department of Psychiatry at NIMHANS. We have Dr. Muralidharan Kesavan, who is Deputy Medical Superintendent of NIMHANS, also Professor of Psychiatry at Department of Psychiatry, NIMHANS. We have Dr. Senthil Kumar Reddy, who is Additional Professor of Psychiatry, and also he is an integral part of Emergency Psychiatry team, the EPAC team at Department of Psychiatry, NIMHANS. We also have Dr. Harihara Suchandra, who is Senior Resident in the Department of Psychiatry, who has currently got training in how to use PPs, and he would also be training you people who have logged in. The first topic of today would be substance use disorders and pandemics. So we have with us Dr. Pratima Murthy, HOD of Psychiatry, to answer these queries. Ma'am, what are the commonest substance use disorders that require medical caring during this pandemic?
Thanks, Chetan. I think one of the important things to understand is really substance use and the relationship to pandemics. One of the things is, of course, particularly in this pandemic, there was a lot happening before the pandemic happened. So there's a whole lot of people, as we know from let's say the National Mental Health Survey, who were addicted to alcohol, tobacco, and various other kinds of drugs. So you have a whole population which is already involved in substance use disorder, which comes along with the pandemic. And then you have the effects of the pandemic itself. One important thing is a huge amount of existential stress during the pandemic. With all the information that's floating around, one is not sure, one is at risk, what will happen to one, what will happen to one's loved ones. And therefore, during this kind of uncertainty, there can be a lot of stress. A person can actually increase their substance use in this period because of the increased stress. The next thing that can happen is isolation. We're all in lockdown, there's social isolation. This can be extremely difficult for a person who has an addiction to whatever substance it is. The most common ones, of course, in our country are both alcohol and tobacco. There's a lockdown. There is no access to getting these substances, and therefore the person can go into acute withdrawal. The next thing that can happen is because of boredom. And in fact, there have been tweets going around, what else do you do in the evenings? You're all alone at home. So a person can actually use substances. And if the person has excessive use of substances, the person can use it to intoxication. The third thing is actually becoming infected. And we do know that, for example, chronic smokers who already have a compromised respiratory function, and impaired immunity, both with tobacco as well as alcohol, are possibly more prone to having various respiratory complications. There is also literature to suggest that because they tend to have a lot of hand-to-mouth movements, they're holding cigarettes or they're drinking alcohol, they're touching their mouth, they're touching their lips. We don't know what they do during intoxication, can actually increase the risk to infection and recovery from infection as well. And with opioid use disorders, we had a beautiful system, not only for opioids, for alcohol, for tobacco. We had a very nice system which is carefully developed in the last 2 decades or so. And you'll see that access to, particularly to OST or opioid substitution treatment, is again another challenge in the time of the pandemic.
Ma'am, how to manage substance use disorders on OPD basis during this pandemic?
Okay, I think the first and most important thing is really to have anticipated. So we know that when these kind of lockdowns occur and there's suddenly closure of all these things, there can be problems. I think one of the good examples when we learned, the prohibition in Bihar, this is not a discussion on the issue of prohibition, but when Bihar set in prohibition, they made sure that a lot of treatment avenues were available, that the doctors were trained, that services were made available for people who had withdrawal. We did a small study last year where we showed that during elections, again, without proper arrangements, when alcohol suddenly dries up, a lot of people tend to go into delirium. And I think the same thing has happened here. So the most important thing, some of the things are already happening. For example, at the district mental health program level, there is already arrangements to make sure that people can actually reach the doctors and get some evaluation. Similarly, in Bangalore, at the BBMP level, there are arrangements being made so that they can go at least to the nearby doctor. With so many doctors trained, even at the general healthcare level, every hospital, every clinic ought to be able to provide some, detoxification arrangements to to treat withdrawal symptoms. There are helplines that are available for both mental health and substance use. I know the Indian Psychiatric Society also has a helpline. There is the M cessation, where the person can give a missed call to a 011 number and actually get messages. So if you just type in M cessation, you'll get the number of the tobacco M cessation portal, and you can get a whole lot of messages on how to reduce and quit tobacco, which is very, very helpful to lakhs of people already. Then there is the tobacco quit line, which is present in all the 4 regions in the country, where people can call and get some counseling guidelines. Because finally, I think for most of the mild and moderate withdrawal symptoms, these are helpful. In addition, the NACO also has made arrangements at the SARCs level to make sure that OST is continually provided.
Thank you, ma'am. It's good to know that we have some systems in place to help people with substance use disorders at this time. Although what the participants should know is that we are not going into details of how to treat detoxification and how to do a de-addiction here. There are separate courses run by the Center for Addiction Medicine here, online courses too. So one can subscribe to that and know how it is done. Here we are trying to deal with the systemic issues and the administrative issues alone. So, ma'am, you also said that there are a lot of people who come with delirium tremens now because of alcohol withdrawal. Now, most of them will also require some IP care. So, who would require, apart from delirium tremens, who would require IP care, and how to provide that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to emphasize that even our experience at NIMHANS, I think out of every 100 patients we see, probably about 70 to 80% are managed in the outpatient. So I think that's a very, very important thing. With proper counseling, proper medication, they can be managed as an outpatient. The category of people who very often require things are people who go into severe delirium, who need stabilization. There are different protocols for that, depending upon whether you're working in a primary healthcare center, a secondary healthcare center, or tertiary health center. One of the important things in delirium tremens, for example, is to look for hydration, is to look at any dyselectrolytemia, is to look for nutritional deficiencies, is to rule out comorbid infection. Because I think I was just talking to a group of medical officers just before this, and one of the things are many of the symptoms of delirium tremens with comorbid infection, particularly the autonomic hyperarousal, hyperthermia, dysautonomia, along with some evidence of chest infection, mimics COVID. So I think it's very important to get a proper history to rule out delirium tremens, because delirium tremens very often is a classical presentation. And when you have a classical presentation, you can be reasonably sure it's delirium tremens. The typical management is, of course, to make sure that supportive care is done, to make sure that electrolyte imbalances and dehydration is corrected, to make sure you do the basic investigations, to make sure that thiamine is given before you start IV dextrose, to make sure that benzodiazepines are given very generously, because they can very effectively control delirium tremens. If you do not have the ability to load with intravenous diazepam, large high-dose oral diazepam itself can be used. So I think this is the group of people which requires evaluation, but make sure you do a detailed neurological examination to rule out head injury, to rule out any other co-occurring neurological causes and infections, particularly tuberculosis, and in the days of COVID as well.
Thank you. Are there any precautions that are to be taken when a lockdown is lifted? Sudden available of substance?
Yeah, so I mentioned in the pandemic, during the pandemic, but there is after the pandemic. And I think one of the greatest findings in all disasters is post-disaster, there is a huge increase in the use of substances. So I think it is now that so that is why people need support during the time of the pandemic, because one can easily look at it as an opportunity to actually forcibly, reduce substance use. And if at that time we actually do the right kind of counseling, possibly initiate anti-craving medication, post-pandemic, at least some of these things can be minimized. Of course, remember, substance use comes with a lot of comorbidities, whether it's a mood disorder, whether it's an anxiety disorder, whether it's any other comorbid disorder. If you treat it well, the chance of a huge fallout of the pandemic can be prevented.
Let's also take this opportunity so that many people who are victims of substance use disorders can probably be treated at the earliest, and then post-pandemic, probably the number of people who are affected with substance use disorders will come down. It's a wish that we have.
Chetan, I can share with you the numbers of all the helplines so that maybe you could share it with the participants after this discussion.
Yes, ma'am. When we upload it to the YouTube, probably we'll in the link itself, in the description itself, you can put the helpline number so that it will be helpful for all. Thank you very much, ma'am. We also thank Linux Laboratories Chennai for their support through educational grant. Our YouTube channel is Nimhance Indians. Kindly subscribe to the same to receive updates about the new videos